Hey, y'all, in my northern southern accent, welcome to the Music Business Game Plan. I am your co host, and with me, my name is Troy Brown, and with me, as always, is my business partner in Big Timber Entertainment, Mark Oliverius. And Mark, you've got a pretty girl. Let's get her on the camera there. So, how y'all doing in Nashville tonight?
We're good. We're good. This is my bride, Candy, my girl. Anyway. And who do we have? We got the one and only Nathan Belt with us tonight, Troy Brown.
How you doing? Good to see you guys.
Good Nathan, great to see you again, brother. Yeah. Hey, Andy, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Candy.
Yeah, it's great to see you again, Nathan. It's been a while.
Thank you. Good to see you. Yeah, good to see you guys. Y'all been doing all right?
You know, we've been doing it, grinding it out like everyone else in the music business, and you know, just having fun doing it. So, yeah, I've been doing well. Mark,
been doing just working, and I love it. You know, a little bit of chilling, but mainly working, and so that's a good thing, I think. You know,
nice.
Yeah. Y'all have a good Christmas?
Yes, very good Christmas. Family were in town. Had the parents here, so got to visit with them. You guys
in Texas, Nathan?
Yeah, they're in Texas. They drove up from the Dallas area, so from McKinney, and they came to visit. So, but yeah, we're originally from Texarkana, East Texas, so they stopped along the way, visit my sister and family there.
I've been to Texarkana. I drove. I had to drive one night. I flew into Dallas and drove in, and then the gas stations were a little different than what we have in Wisconsin. You just like pull off, and it's right there. It's right on the road. And we grabbed a 6-pack of beer. Normally we'd grab the 12-pack, but we weren't in our state, so we grabbed a 6-pack and finished the drive over the Texarkana. So nice time, beautiful area.
I was gonna say, there's beer in Texarkana, as the song says, you know.
Nathan, you are in form. You're always stylistically in form, aren't you?
Oh, well, thank you.
Listen to that voice. Listen to that voice, man. Oh man,
that is the best voice in music, y'all. Nathan, your voice just blows me away, and I love hearing what you got, and you have some new songs out, right?
Yeah, I've got a couple of songs I put out independently. It's some singles. Clean Living Is Killing Me, and I Can't Stand No More. And I wrote those with Brian Simpson, and he produced those tracks. He's a great songwriter. Writes for Black River Publishing, and he's a BMI award-winning writer as well. And but just a fantastic person and human being. We've known each other since I was about 17, so I think it's around 97 is when we first met. So he knows me well, but I've loved working with him. We got some good tracks. We recorded 7 songs, and we've only released the 2 right now, but I have more that'll be coming out soon.
Is it that country, or is it that kind of rockabilly?
No, I don't. There? Well, see, I don't do rockabilly music. I never really did rockabilly.
Yeah.
I never categorized myself as rockabilly in any way. You know, there was a time when I did. I love the Sun Records music. What I love is I love that old school rock and roll sound, and I never really consider, you know, I'm a fan of Stray Cats. I know they're categorized as rockabilly. You know, they're one of my favorites, Brian Setzer and all that stuff. That was all a big influence on me. But so was Merle Haggard and George Jones and George Strait, Mark Chestnut, those guys, Alan Jackson, a lot of those 90s performers. But mostly people that I grew up around. Classic artists or that loved and performed and sang the music of classic artists like Merle. But the new music that I have coming out though is country. It's just straightforward country. It's my roots showing basically. It's where
Yeah.
I come from, and going back to that Texarkana kind of feeling, and the music that I was singing when I was 14 years old, 14 and 15, is all that 90s country stuff. So the new music that I'm writing now kind of reflects a lot of that.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, but so that's my new singles, what I've got coming
Mhm.
out, and those 7 tracks, and the stuff I've been writing recently.
Yeah.
What was it like? I mean, how was the writing dynamic with Brian? And what are some of his? I'm just list some of the artists he's had cuts
Mm-hmm.
with as a writer.
Uh,
Brian,
and, well, he's had George Strait cuts.
yeah,
He had Haley Withers is a recent artist that's out right
Mhm.
now. She's got a song out that I think was a top 10 hit for Brian. And there's many artists that have cut and recorded his songs. He's had some pretty big hits, but um, I love the fact that George Strait has recorded some of his songs. One of my favorites is "If the Whole World Had a Honky Tonk."
Mhm.
And in fact, speaking of that, the next single I'd like to release is one that Brian wrote with Ashley Gorley, and it's called "I Have My Heart on Something Else." But they intended on George Strait to record it, but he passed on that track, and Brian played it for me and asked if I'd like to do it. So that's going to be one of the new songs coming out. But yeah, no, he's had some great success as a writer out there.
Mhm.
How did you approach the writing on that, Nathan? When you guys did you come in with concepts already? Did you come in? How do you approach the writing of the record with Brian?
Well, with the production aspect, with him producing me, I needed to give him some examples of the sound I was wanting. I mean, he already listened to. I'd been writing a lot before we decided to get together, and he listened to a lot of that stuff. But and then we got together at Black River Publishing, and we began to write our own. But he had also asked me to send him tracks, so I made an iTunes list of music that has influenced me over the years, and music that I like, country music artists that I like, our favorite albums. And so we took that as inspiration to write these new songs that we recorded ultimately. And but the writing process going into Black River, you know, different people have different processes, but for me, what I've experienced since the early 2000s is you go to the office for the day, right? And Black River is the publishing company. They have writer rooms that you can sit down and write in. And Brian has a favorite space there that he prefers. And we would meet there, and that's where we would do our co-writes. But most of these places, most publishers, they have these spaces that you can schedule and go in and sit down and write. So as a writer with the publisher, you can expect that usually. But that's what we would do. We would meet there at Black River and write most of these songs. There's another writer I wrote with two others, Jerry Salley, I should
Mhm.
mention,
Yeah,
is a fantastic songwriter and a good friend.
sure is.
And got to write with him on a track that I'll also be releasing later in the year, probably a springtime release. And there's another track I wrote with Chris Burgess, who's another fantastic writer here in town. And these guys, Jerry Salley was actually one of the very first songwriters I ever wrote with in Nashville. We wrote together in, I think it was 2001, and that was the first demo session, Nashville demo session I ever did in a real
Wow.
Nashville studio, and I was really excited about that and the opportunity to do that. But that was at County Q, if you remember the old County Q
Mhm.
studio in Berry Hill. Um, so we did a song back then called "Long Way to Go Before She's Gone." And when we got together this time, this was um, I think it was it late 2022 or early 2023 when we met and we wrote a song called "The Longer She's Gone, the Colder It Gets," and so we're kind of sticking with a theme, I think. But
Jerry had the Skaggs stuff. Jerry had Skaggs hits, right?
I think that's right. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
bluegrass guy.
Yeah.
Jerry's a fantastic bluegrass singer, songwriter, and musician, and he does have that kind of voice. He's got that Ricky Skaggs, Vince Gill style tenor voice. And Chris Bursness is on a whole other planet. He's a different altogether. You know,
The
he's
mayor.
the mayor. That's
The
right.
mayor.
He's kind of a magical guy. I think of him as like this. This guy, he's such an interesting character, and but I love him to death. But you sit down in a room with him, and he just has these brilliant ideas that he just starts, sharing with you, and every one of them knocks you out, and you think, "Oh crap, that's awesome too," you know. But he's a master lyricist. He's fantastic, and it's always a pleasure to write with him. We've had a chance to write several songs actually. There's a few that I haven't recorded yet that he and I wrote together. But yeah, but that's pretty much the process. You come in and you sit down in a space and you start to brainstorm. And I would have my hook lines. I Can't Stand No More, and Clean Living. Those are both ideas that I wrote down, jotted down, and came in with. Well, Clean Living, Killing Me, actually, that even came out of a conversation when Brian was asking me about if he wanted, excuse me, he was offering a cup of coffee, and I said no. To his astonishment, he was surprised that I didn't want coffee. And he said, "What are you talking? You don't want coffee?" And I said, "No, I don't drink coffee. I don't drink coffee at all." So that shocked him, and he was asking me, "Well, what else do you not do?" And so we started thinking of things I didn't do. Like, I don't drink a whole lot, although I did a little too much last night, but I don't drink too much anymore. But, uh, but we came up with the idea about Clean Living as Killing Me, and it turned out to be a really fun song.
What else do you not do? Sounds like a song too.
What else do you not do? Yeah, it could be. What else do you not do? Well, that could be a little risque. That could go. But yeah.
Hey Nathan, I've got a question for you. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
I don't want to lose this.
If I start rambling, forgive me.
No, I don't want to lose this thought. I've done a lot of reading about Willie and Texas guy, and obviously, and he talked about his first gig as a writer in the publishing house, and he ended up going in a room in this writing room, and that's not where Willie would get his inspiration. He would get it, being outside and just being Willie. Mm-hmm. And that's actually where Hello Walls came from. Right. He's just, nothing was coming to him, and he said Hello Walls. But anyway, what are these rooms like? What do they look like? Do they kind of make
like
it?
An office space. It just looks like a kind of an office space, or they different publishers. They or it could look just like a bedroom without the bed. It just looks instead of the bed, you got the piano and a couch. Because some of these publishers are in houses along Music Row. Mm-hmm. But it's just a space like that. But you're talking about inspiration, coming up with ideas. Most of my ideas come to me at home, if I'm at home and working on something here at the house. Sure. Usually late at night, I've got my guitar and sitting there plucking away, and I'll come up with a melody or an idea, and I'll immediately want to record it and put it down.
Mhm.
But man, a lot of my ideas come to me in the shower. You know, the it's not a cubicle, but the office space, situation is not as inspiring as it could be at
Mhm.
times.
Mhm.
But yeah, I do prefer much larger spaces or more comfortable settings for
Yeah.
inspiration. But when I do co-write, because I don't have a publisher myself, when I do co-writes, I invite people to come over to my house and we'll write here, or I'll go meet them at their place. Um, but yeah, I think, like you're saying, I would much rather write, walking outside, somewhere sitting in a park or something.
Right. Right. Do you set time every day? I know you're busy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, writers, again, here in Nashville and it's more of a business type of thing. And a lot of guys, they'll meet at
Mhm.
10 a.m. or 11 and they'll write all day, till 3 or 5,
Right.
just like a normal job.
Mhm.
Um, but then again, there's other guys that might prefer to write at night or in the evening.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's events that you go to uh, when they go down south for the, I don't know what it's called, but uh, what is that thing? I can't think of
Gulf
what it's called.
Shores, the
Yeah, one of those things. They'll get
Floribama.
together. Yeah, well, they'll get together and they'll end up writing something while they're sitting there hanging out, drinking and stuff. And sometimes you've got some cool songs. I think that this is kind of how you come up with all these songs that have 7 or 8 writers on it. They're doing something like that. Maybe I don't know. I've never been included in something like that where a song has about 7 or 8 writers on it, but I know the other people that have. There's also a situation where you'll do a song with 2 other guys, and they'll end up sharing it or passing it to another guy, and they'll add to it or change something
Mhm.
to it. Or maybe somebody wants to cut the song, and they'll say, "Well, I
Mhm.
want to cut this, but I want to change some things." Okay, well, they're going to get a writer credit on it, and they may talk to somebody else. They might bring in another writer. So by the end of the day, you're going to have 8 writers on it, and it started with 3.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
mean that can happen. That can happen.
For you, what comes first, the melody or the lyric?
Usually the melody. Usually always the melody. And I'm a very musical person. I love melodies, and so that's what hits me first. Usually, always.
Yeah, that little circle went to for some reason it switched from Wi-Fi to my plug-in here, so it happens from
Oh,
time to time. So,
I didn't notice
Roger,
it.
we do have a question here. It's my good buddy Dauber, and what setting or location does Nathan get most of his inspiration?
Oh, just here at home, really. Um, I on my couch here at home or sitting on my bed in my bedroom with my window. My favorite time to write is springtime and fall, when the weather's just right and I can have the window open and sitting there. That's where I like to write.
Yeah. Did you ever record? You remember that song you played for me first time we met? You grabbed your guitar out of your truck, Angel
Oh, there's an angel
over.
walking over me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I haven't recorded it personally, but there's a demo of it that Roger Brown recorded. My co-writer on that song.
That's a great song.
That's a
Yeah.
good
You
one.
you write
Oh,
great
thank you.
songs. Yeah, I was blown away. Here we are. We're just having a little lunch and meeting each other and then you said, "Hey, you want to hear a song?" Sure. And out to the truck, you pulled your guitar and there we were in the parking lot. And next thing you know, we had people watching. So that was a lot of fun that afternoon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Nath,
That's a good
I
place.
got, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that was a good place. You're making me want some more Mexican food.
Oh man.
that's one of our stops there, Nathan. Every
Yeah.
time I'm in town.
Right.
You know, Nate, I haven't had the chance to play with you for, we did a show together a few years back, 150 dates or whatever we played on that thing for the year. But knowing you before that and having you on other shows, and you got too many options. You really have too many options as a singer. I mean, I've heard you cover Troy. We talk about the rockabilly. We're just it's just that older rock and roll thing, like you say. But I've heard you cover everything, and brilliantly.
Thank you. Well, I feel like my heart and soul is as country rhythm and blues. That's where my heart and soul is country rhythm and blues, and you put those three things together, and that defines what I love. And because those are all the artists I love. I love I love a really good country shuffle, and that's one of my favorite things in the world. I love the steel guitar. That's my favorite country instrument is the steel guitar, or I love a B-bender Telecaster. I love the fiddle, but I love the organ. I love like a Hammond organ, or something like that. I love a saxophone, sax solos. I love a horn section. I love Delbert McClinton, and also I love George Jones. And so it's this thing. And of course, I grew up around a lot of Elvis music and performing and singing a lot of Elvis. So that's a big influence. And that Sun Records music was a big influence. But yeah.
Nathan, you're one of the hardest working people that I know
Well, thank you.
in Nashville.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, that's the business, and that's what we always try to convey how hard a work it is in this business. And so you do a show on the General Jackson. Is it still the General Jackson?
General Jackson
Yeah.
Showboat. It's it's right in the Music Valley area behind where the Grand Ole Opry is located, Opryland.
Yep. And Mark, you mentioned you guys did 150 shows together one year, and I've caught the show, and this was actually before we knew each other, Nathan.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, Mark, if Nathan played that show or not, because I know that sometimes you can't make it and the sub has to come in and what have you. But so you've got 150 gigs on a showboat a year. Do you still have Nathan Belt and the Buckles?
When I can. The past 3 years, we've not been able to gig and play as much as we once did. Excuse me. There was a time where we were doing gigs every week, and I was playing with the Buckles. I was playing with 2 other bands, and I was doing 8 gigs a week at one point. Losing my voice, but because every gig is a 4-hour gig. So, but the Buckles, we got really busy up till right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic really took a blow to everything. But coming out of that, I pretty much, when I came back to Nashville, immediately got the job on the General Jackson. So I immediately started working for them, and that takes up all your time in the evenings. So I couldn't really gig with the Buckles as much as I'd like. We still did a few gigs here and there, but just like I said, not as many as I'd like. But coming up, this 2025 will be different. I was going to make an announcement soon that I'm switching to the day show on the General Jackson, and so I'll be off the boat early enough. I can do gigs and events in the evening. So I'm excited about that because that'll open up a lot more opportunities for my band and I.
Yeah, a lot of our watchers and listeners do make it to Nashville. They're Nashville fans, and y'all, if you ever, and if Nathan is switching to the day on the General Jackson, it's a great show. Stop up, say hi to him, tell him that you saw him on our show,
Yeah.
and Nathan's just a wonderful man and a wonderful human being, and he'll say, "You watch that?" I know Nathan will say, "You actually watch that?"
No.
But Nathan, I've seen either Mark shared some video of some of the stuff that you do, and you got a lot of energy on stage. You start, when things start to happen, or you're covering a rockabilly song or some of that Sun stuff and everything, but that voice, man, is just, it's ripping. And I enjoy that. Do you post on social media some of your stuff?
Yeah, I do. And there's a separate page for the Buckles band, and I kind of are separating. I'm separating the two things. So as myself as a solo artist, you can follow me at Nathan Belt Music on Instagram and TikTok and those places. And the band, the Buckles, it's just Nathan Belt and the Buckles. You can find on Insta as well. But yeah, so you can find that. I do post and try to stay as active as I can. I kind of slacked here with the election and then the holidays and all that stuff. It's been so busy and crazy the past
Been a
several
crazy
months.
2 months. Yeah.
I felt like I needed to step back from social media for a minute, but I do plan to get more active here coming up.
Yeah. So again, anyone watching or listening, go follow Nathan, because the anything that he does, or go catch a show in Nashville, because it's a great show. So, but Nathan, we're a half hour into this,
Yeah.
and we don't even know where you came from, how you got into music.
Well,
Why don't you give us some background here?
Um, yeah, originally I'm from Texarkana, and was born there. And um, that's where my family is from. Is from my mom's from the Texas side, and my dad is from the Arkansas side. And
Split the difference, eh?
yeah, exactly. And so that's my hometown, really. But I grew up in '91. We went to McKinney, Texas, and that's
Yeah.
where I went to school. Graduated from McKinney. Um, but that's where at age 13 I started to play music. I'd always been interested in music, and I think my dad knew I had an interest in music, and for some reason he decided to buy me a guitar for Christmas in '93, and I immediately took to it and began practicing and learning and playing as much as I could. I disappeared, and my dad likes to say that I disappeared into my room and they never saw me again, which is pretty true. Um, and so I was playing everything, trying to learn every song that I could on every tape cassette that I had, and that doesn't age me then something, Yeah. But there was a lot of rewinding, fast forward rewinding. But no, um, yeah, I started. There's in Texas. There's what's called an Opry circuit, and if it still exists, I think somewhat it's still kind of there. There's remnants of it, I suppose, but it was really popular in the '90s. There, with just the popularity of country music at that time, I suppose
Sure.
you had a lot of young performers, a lot of young singers that were coming up. Lots of young girls, 9, 10, 11-year-old girls, their parents dressing them up and they're singing, I want to be a cowboy sweetheart. Lots of that going on everywhere you turn around. You got to start somewhere. But um, man, there were a couple of songs back then in the '90s that they were all singing. Man, lots of Reba,
Oh
and
yeah.
Trisha Yearwood. Trisha Yearwood was a big one of that. Um, but the opera circuit spanned from um, Arkansas all across Texas, and my first place was at the Ashdown Jamboree in Ashdown, Arkansas, and uh, I'm told, or I was told at the time, that Tracy Lawrence had also started there. And I was really excited about that because at the time he was a big influence for me. So much so I grew up my mullet and permed it and everything, and uh, wanted to be like Tracy Lawrence. But there at the Ashdown Jamboree, it was with the Colgate Country Music Showdown, or I think is what it was called. And my sister sang as well, and we joined that contest and sang there. And that was the first one, the first Opry I ever experienced. McKinney had a little Opry. That was an amazing experience. It was a good learning ground for someone just starting out because it was just all amateur musicians and a little lady that wanted to have a little Opry there, McKinney, and got on stage. Nobody's playing the same thing, but hey, we were having fun. But that was a great learning ground. And no, there were some good musicians and there were good people that I met, good artists and singers that I met that were good mentors to me growing up through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, man, I was around it every Saturday. I had great parents, and my parents were so supportive of what I wanted to do. It didn't matter what I wanted to do. I mean, I started out wanting to be an artist. I wanted to be a comic book artist. I was very big into comic books and DC Comics, Superman and Batman, and that's all I wanted to do. And so I took a lot of art classes and things. But when they got the guitar, that just took over my interest completely. Baseball was another big interest of mine. I loved baseball, and I was crazy about Nolan Ryan and the Texas Rangers, and Jose Canseco, the Oakland A's. But I was a big baseball fan. I loved Sammy Sosa and the Cubs and all those different players. But like I said, Dad got that guitar and it just completely took over my life. But they were good enough. They drove me from McKinney to Grapevine to Wiley to Burleson and Denison to at Littlefield, Texas, all the way up to Oklahoma City. Johnny Hines Country Music Review in Arlington, and Grapevine. The Grapevine Opry was my main home. Ultimately, became my main Opry home.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was my learning ground from the age of 14 all the way up. I played those Opries till I was 21. Well, even all the way up to, I think the last time I played Opry, I was probably 28 or
Mm-hmm.
29. Was the last time I made an Opry appearance. Well, no, I think I made 2012 was the last time I performed on an Opry stage.
Oh.
Yeah, but there at the Grapevine Opry. But yeah, years later, if we fast forward all the way to when I was 19, I got a job at South Fort Ranch, um, the home of Dallas, the TV show, where they fly in, you see the scene of the ranch, and then that's where I worked. And I was on the maintenance crew there. My buddy Patrick, my best friend Patrick, he helped helped me get a job there. Worked on the maintenance crew, and ultimately they hired me to be a singing cowboy when they found out I could sing. And so I would show up, and Patrick would bring his horses, and we'd be dressed up in our cowboy gear, and some people would come out. They would have groups from all over, from Germany, from Japan, from Australia, to take tours of the property. But they would do events, and they would go out on a hay wagon and meet a chuck wagon out in the middle of the field, and they'd have the hay bales all spread out, and Patrick and I would ride up and get off the horse, and I'd have my guitar and I'd sing, I've got spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle, and do stuff like that.
Listen to that voice.
I
Yeah,
know.
you're getting a little flavor here. So.
Yeah. But and that was a lot of fun, man. That was a lot of fun, and I really, really enjoyed that. And we got to eat really good food. And one thing about the music business you find out pretty quick is when you get the right gigs, you're going to eat well. You know? You get the right gigs, you're gonna eat some good food. But no, that was good memories. And from that point on, I would leave. I would work Southwark Ranch, do the singing cowboy thing, and then my dad or my mom, they would pick me up, and I would change clothes while they were driving me. I would change clothes in the back seat of the car while they were driving, and we'd go to. It was called the Palace, and it's there in Dallas on Greenville Avenue. And there was a guy there named Bill Millett, and some people will know that name or recognize that name. But he was producing a show there, and he'd come across me somehow. I don't even. I honestly don't remember how I met the guy, but he wanted me to be singing there, and he put me in this show. And Billy Burnett came down, and this is how I met Billy Burnett. And I love Bill. Billy's still a good friend. Love and admire. But now he's talking about rockabilly music. He is a legend in the world of rockabilly, and he, we were opening for him, doing we were doing singing pretty straight up rockabilly stuff, and we'd open for him, and he saw me, and he talked to me and talked to my family, and decided he wanted to produce some tracks on me. So he recorded a 5-song demo on me, and it took it back to Nashville, and he presented it to some people at Hamstein Music, if you remember Hamstein Publishing. And they flew down and they saw me there at Grapevine and heard me perform, and then they asked to sign me. They wanted to sign me, and before I signed, I drove down. Bill Ham wanted to meet me. He was the owner of Hamstein, and he's lived down in Austin. And if you don't know Bill Ham, he was a pretty big legend in the world of music. ZZ Top. But they sent me down there, and I drove down with a friend of mine, and they put me up in a really nice hotel. What's the name? I can't think of the name of it. It's the old hotel down there that's haunted. It was really really wild. It was a fun stay. But the next day, we went into the meeting and walked in, and Bill was this giant of a character to me. You know, I remember I was 19 years old, and he was just this giant of a man. And he had a big cigar. He was like the epitome of what you would imagine a music producer or somebody like that would be, you know, or manager. And he had this big giant desk, and it felt like he was sitting like way up on this platform. You know, and you walk in and you're sitting there and you're tiny, you know, and but he was incredibly nice to me. He was so nice and kind, and loved hearing about my background, and really liked the music. And he was just a really sweet guy, and he made me very comfortable. I was very happy about that. So I left really happy, and ready to sign. I wanted to sign with him, but ultimately the attorney we had advised against it and didn't like the contract. So at 19, I was frustrated, but I took my parents' advice as they were listening to the attorney, and said, "We don't need to sign this right now." And but eventually, Jenny Johnson, Jenny Johnson Walker came along, and she had been working with Hamstein, and she really believed in me a lot. And her husband, Billy Joe Walker Jr., they opened Marathon Key. I think it was a branch of Warner Brothers, or I'm sorry, Warner Chappell. And they wanted to sign me as an artist, and that was in 2001. So from 1999 to 2001, there was that little gap there. Then they ultimately came back and signed me, and I agreed to that contract. So that was my first experience here in Nashville, was signing with them. And I moved to Nashville in July of 2001 and got a job at the Cooker on West End. And do you remember the Cooker?
Meatloaf. That meatloaf was killer, man.
They had great food. They
Yeah.
had great food, man. It was a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
Nice place. yeah, so that was when I first, right before 9/11, first time living on my own and by myself. But I had good roommates, and that was oh man, I'd never forget that. But scary time. Uh,
Yeah.
but then everything just kind of took off from there. I signed with Marathon, and I later signed with A Cup Rose Publishing, thanks to Jenny and Billy Joe and good people there at A Cup. And this was before Sony came along. 3 years later, I said, well, it was 2000. Was it 2003? And toward the end of 2003, when Sony came along and they bought A Cup Rose, and now it's Sony ATV. But I had good years there writing at ACUF. I had great experience. I got to write with some fantastic songwriters, and that was like my training ground, basically. Because before that, I was aimlessly writing. And then I met these professionals, and they taught me how I should be writing, or they taught me the formula, right? And gave me some pointers, and that really helped me out a lot. And so that was a good time, a good experience. But
What were some of the writers? Who were some of the writers, Nathan? That some of the olders that you
yeah,
were writing with?
John Scott Sherrill
Yeah.
wrote a couple of really great songs with him. Dennis Robbins, AJ Masters, who's passed away since. AJ was one of my favorite people, man. He was an amazing guy. Michael Heaney, Rich Alves is another one.
Right.
So I was writing with some really good people there. And I'm very fortunate to have had that experience. But I wrote with Brian back then too. Brian Simpson. We wrote. We had a funny experience. We were riding in there down on the row. Right, there was that old house. It's not there anymore. There's a hotel there now. The Virgin Hotel sits there now. But there was an old house there, and it was it was Marty Stewart's publishing company. Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there an attorney, some attorneys in there too? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
And then right, the sub stop was, you had to hit the sub stop too.
Yeah, the
that
sub
was
stop. That's gone.
I know.
People will never know.
Or Max. Did you Max meetings being at the Max meeting 3? Did you ever eat at Max?
3.
Oh my
no, I
God.
didn't do that one. No, the sub shop I did. Nashville's been there forever.
Yeah.
You know, but that publishing company that was there, Brian Simpson was writing there, and we got to write there one night, and we had a funny experience. He had to remind me of it. I'd forgotten about it, but we had a ghost experience. Wow. Where we were riding upstairs and the TV downstairs turned on, and we couldn't figure out how it came on. And we went down the stairs and in the room, and the remote control to the TV was on the ledge of the door frame.
Interesting.
That's cool.
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So we couldn't figure that one out, But anyway,
like being a name of Mark.
I was going to say, we better get Charlie on the scene, Troy. Our good friend Charlie Mack. He's oh Lord, he's got a ghost in his hotel up there in Upper Michigan, apparently.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Nell personally, but I guess she's there. So maybe someday I'll see Nell. But anyway, the only two ghosts usually in there are Charlie and I. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's a wild experience though, Nathan, huh?
Yeah. Well, see, I don't even remember what song we got that night, or even if we've got a song. That's that's the only thing I remember about that. Wow. Which is funny that I didn't even remember that. He had to remind me about that. But yeah, Brian was shocked. I think I didn't remember that. But Brian's a good guy. But yeah, no, I had a lot of good experiences there in the early days in Nashville. And then I left and did a little stint of performing some Elvis music. And then I came back in 2012. I got back to Nashville to be an artist again in 2012.
You rock that Elvis stuff. Don't
do.
let's not code it sugar. Let's not pass over that. You could have really.
Well, look, I don't.
I mean,
I don't dwell on it much anymore because it's a thing. I think it's probably it's more accepted now in the world of Nashville than it was then.
yeah.
Because believe it or not, it kind of tainted you back then. It was kind of a negative look, a bad look. They didn't want, oh, this guy's an Elvis guy. Oh, we're not going to sign him, kind of a thing. And there's some truth to that. And when I came back to town, when I came to town in 2012, or came back, I was asked to look. You got to sweep that on the rug. We got to not. You don't want to be talking about the Elvis thing. But ultimately, it actually ended up being, to our surprise, to be more of a positive outcome because I ended up meeting Joe Gershio, who was Elvis Presley's music director in the 70s or conductor. And we developed a nice relationship. And I'm really thankful for that. And that was through Jenny Johnson Walker again. And she knew Joe and set up that meeting. And she'd asked me one day, had you ever met him before? And I said, no. And she said, well, let's set up a meeting with him. But that's where the conversation came to, was he found out that I had performed as Elvis, and he saw the video of it. And he said, why are you not doing this? He said, you need to be performing as Elvis, right? He said, you can still do your country stuff, but you could be doing this and being successful with this. So I kind of continued. I'd already retired my act, but I kind of continued quietly doing some Elvis stuff in South Africa, and which was again an enormous opportunity that opened up for me there, and I got to go to Durban, South Africa, and Johannesburg, performing as Elvis. But the experience, it was fantastic. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Some incredible people I got to meet.
How were the crowds? The crowds must have been big.
Packed. We had big, yeah.
Yeah.
It was sold out almost all the time, every show. They love Elvis overseas. I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter anywhere you go in the world. If you go outside of America, no matter where you go, you're going to meet massive Elvis fans, people that are obsessed with Elvis Presley and his music. And who was it? There was somebody that said that comparing Elvis to Jesus, as far as the two names, or I guess most well known around the world, Jesus and Elvis are probably the two most well known names in the world. But it's amazing, and we had incredible crowds, incredible turnouts, and it's obviously it was a privilege to be able to perform his music and share.
That's an amazing story, Nathan, because Elvis, he didn't get to perform outside of the United States. Tom Parker.
That's true, yeah. And that's
didn't allow that.
You're correct. That's one reason a lot of these guys, like Sean Clush is a perfect example. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with him or know his name, but I think he's the number one Elvis in the world. There's nobody bigger than Sean Clush. And then there's guys that kind of rank under Sean. But he's been the number one guy since at least 2007. But he performs in Brazil, and he sells out stadiums.
Wow.
They're selling out and performing in arenas and stadiums down there. And there's a great guy named Heitor Crespo that plays guitar down there and tours with them. And friends of mine, Donna and Thea Danos, they sing back up, and it's just amazing. It's like this concert. They feel like it's like you're really performing as Elvis. I mean, that you really are Elvis. You know what I mean? You're experiencing that same kind of energy. So that's phenomenal that people still come out and support his music that way.
So Donna and Thea, they're with him.
Donna and Thea Danos. They're good
Yeah,
friends. They sing backup. Well, you know
yeah,
Perry. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, you know Donna and Thea, don't you?
yeah.
They travel with Sean and sing
Oh,
backup
wow.
for him, and they're great. They're incredible singers, and but the stories that they could tell, man, they have some amazing stories.
Man.
They've
Hmm.
seen some places. They've been up to. I mean, they've been around all around Europe and Australia and just anywhere you can think of, South America, and they've sold out these giant stadiums, and it just blows my mind. It blows my mind. Yeah.
Nathan, when you're in the shower and if you don't have your own melody coming to you or your own lyric coming to you, do you do a little Elvis in the shower?
No.
I do.
No, no, no.
Troy does.
Oh
Troy.
yeah,
That's
I
funny.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, I sing a lot of Elvis in the shower. So
yeah. Way down. Yeah, right.
uh,
That's funny.
Nathan, I've got to ask you a question as a songwriter
Yeah.
and a performer, but mainly as a songwriter. What do you think of AI?
Oh, AI. Well, I mean, it's still kind of developing, and so we've already seen some of the things that is talking about Elvis. We've seen there's AI that's completed the vocal on a song. Um, that Jamie Kelly,
Hmm.
a guy that's in the Elvis world, he did this thing where he used AI to complete Elvis singing on a track, and it just sounds incredible. It sounds like the real thing. You can't tell the
Hmm.
difference. It's that good. So we know that that's happening, which is kind of cool. You can bring back artists from the past, maybe, and uh, lyric wise, people, I don't know. I really don't know. You're not going to have the heart and soul that you
Hmm.
get organically. You write from real experiences,
Hmm.
from real life point of view, perspectives. I'm not sure how AI would be able to do that. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be able to write something that's convincing. I've heard some convincing things, mostly funny, comical type stuff, but it's got the ability. I don't know if it'll ever take over the human process.
Hmm.
I don't know, but it is something to consider.
It's something else. I mean, I got to say, yesterday, one of our label, Timothy James, was at the house here at the studio. We were working on one of his new tracks, and he put in ask this AI generator, whatever, to do a country song with these lyrics, and I mean, 10, 15 seconds later, it was like pumping this track out. It was crazy,
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? We may see. I don't know. That's going to be a slippery slope. That's a kind of a weird
It's a
thing,
slippery
man.
slope.
That's I.
Hmm.
Where you do with the copyright and royalties and all that, and who created it, and people are going to, well, certainly take advantage of that. Somebody's going to take advantage of using that to serve themselves, and I'm sure. But I don't know. That's some weird stuff,
It's
It's a
weird.
wild thing to think about.
I
It's
mean, we
going to be
didn't use
awesome.
it.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
it's going to
Troy.
be awesome in a year. Even I think it's
Yeah,
1 year from now, we're going to know more about it in the music industry and than we do today.
it's
It's
affecting as far as entertainment it goes. It's the movie world. I
hmm.
mean, it's already. People were saying, well, it's never going to make a convincing film or short film. Well, it already has. It's made short films that look really, really impressive. There's little things, little details you can point out and say, okay, that's AI, uh, but it's getting so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, really, you can't tell real from AI in a lot of
yeah,
ways.
yeah, yeah. Hey, going back just a little bit,
Yeah.
you mentioned Nolan Ryan, and we've in the past we've talked, and we're both baseball fans. And remember that when Nolan Ryan, that guy charged the mound on him, and Nolan
Oh
Ryan
yeah.
got that guy, he put him in a headlock, just started pounding knobs on his
Right,
head.
right.
That
Yeah.
was fantastic. But yeah, did you get to any Sounds games this year? I
I
know
do
you've
like
been
the
busy.
Sounds games. I do like the Sounds games. I haven't really recently. The Showboat takes up
Yeah,
most of my time, so I
yeah,
don't really get to go out. But now that my schedule will be changing in 2025, excuse me, hopefully I'll get to um, do more of experiencing Nashville the evenings, seeing some ball games like that.
yeah.
But I love going to the Sounds games. Um,
Hmm.
that's one of my favorite things to do here in
When
town. It's just
it's I'm going to do that this summer, and let's
it's
get
a nice
together and go to a
ballpark.
Sounds game. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah,
Milwaukee Brewers farm team. That's our AAA team.
that's
Is the
right.
Sounds, and so we ended up with some problems on our pitching staff with injuries, and so we had to strip the pitching staff of the Sounds this year. So,
Huh.
but we've got a really good farm system, so the Sounds are going to have a nice year this year. So,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, looking
Well,
forward to that.
I you know would see the Brewers when they played the Cubs usually.
Yeah,
I guess and because
it's
when I was growing up, if the Rangers weren't playing on television, I would watch WGN Network and watch
sure.
the Cubs play.
Yep.
So I had this developed this love of Wrigley Field and the Cubs.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's a good rivalry, the Brewers and the Cubs. Those
yeah,
are those are always fun to go to. Mainly if you go to a game at I still call it Miller Park, but it's American Family Field now in Milwaukee, and you go to a Cubs games, it's about half and half. Cubs fans and Brewer fans. It gets a little testy.
oh
It's
yeah,
yeah, it's fun to watch. So I've never partaken in any of the testiness, but I've seen it.
yeah,
I've seen it a little bit. But so Nathan, I've got another question here for you.
yeah.
Um, Tell us a little bit about the struggle in the music business. What's the biggest struggle? What's the biggest thing that's happened to you in the music industry in terms of struggle?
Well, a struggle. Well, nothing is ever is forever. As far as deals go and things like that.
Hmm.
You should uh, never get too far ahead of yourself because it could be taken away from you the very next day. I think the biggest struggle for me probably was in my earlier days as an artist when, um, looking back on it, there were other artists signed to the same development company.
Hmm.
And there were a lot of times when I felt overlooked or kind of put aside in favor of another artist. And I never allowed myself to be jealous in any way of anybody else, but I was a bit envious of the. Uh, I felt like the unbalanced attention, there that. Um, uh, so that was one thing for me, and then, but struggles trying to support yourself financially in this business is
Hmm.
probably the biggest thing because uh, yeah, there's no guarantee with anything, um, unless you've got it down in writing.
Hmm.
But I would say, yeah, just keeping your head above water in this business is probably the toughest thing. You
Yeah.
just got to be smart with your finances and
Yeah.
uh, know how to
Yeah.
save.
Yeah. If you had anyone that was uh, today that getting signed to one of these publishing deals, what kind of advice would you give them?
Well, definitely what I was just saying. um, act like you could lose your deal tomorrow. Work your ass off and take it seriously. One of the things that I look back on. I wish I'd taken my first years in Nashville more seriously, but I was very immature back then. I still had a lot growing up to do. I was only 21 when I first got here, and I got caught up messing around with my friends that were going to Belmont, and so I got caught up in the college world and hanging out with my buddies, and I took I think I took things for granted that I should have been more serious about. And so my advice would be, like, if I would go back and talk to my younger self, is stop worrying about the parties and the hanging out with your buddies and stuff, and focus on writing good music and writing good songs, and getting ahead in the business and making those right choices. Most of all, um, yeah. Now, be in the places that you should be. If you're going to go out, you need to be surrounding yourself with the right people in the business, because if you can make yourself aware of where are these people hanging out, where are they going, and winners and losers, over in the Music Row area, places like that, hang out where people in the industry, the people that your peers, the people that you look up to, go where they're going, and spend time with them, and you're going to learn a lot more. Surround yourself with people that are better than you. Don't ever get too, arrogant or egotistical to think that, your shit don't stink. I mean, everybody
Great
has.
advice.
Well, I mean, you can always learn from anyone, everybody. You can always learn something new.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how much experience you've had. I'm still learning. And I've had all these years doing all these things, and I've been blessed with so many different experiences, but I'm still learning to this day. Getting into the General Jackson, I'd done theater before with the Elvis world, but I hadn't done theater like this. And this is, General Jackson's a theater production show. And so, and there's dancing and choreography and shit that I don't do. No, I mean, I'm not the biggest on the dancing thing. I can dance. I could two-step. I like the country dance. Okay. I like the two-step and waltz, and I can do that. And, hey, I even know the electric slide. I used to do that. But choreography, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I had to do it. And
hey, you were ripping it up back until I remember. I mean, you always had a physicality on stage, though. I remember
well, it helps when you're 6'4", right, Mark?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, lean as a as a jaguar. I mean, I remember on the freaking at the Troubadour for that Music of Nashville show. At the end of the show, Troy, we were up on a stage. We're in a theater, a seated theater, and Nate takes about an 8-foot jump off the stage. All I could think of was like, by God, do not pull your knees out or whatever. Don't break your legs, or I don't know. But he just jumps off in the middle of the audience and goes rolling up to the back of the theater. It was anyway.
Yeah.
Nathan, yeah. That's I could see it. Like I said,
there's been a few moments where I've done some things like that. I stood on a bar or on a table or two, but
yeah,
I
don't think there's
ripped my pants a few times.
I don't think that there aren't a lot of people that I actually have to look up to just a little bit, Nathan. When we were standing side by side, you got to be at what, 6'4" or so?
No, I'm not that tall. I wish it was more tall.
Oh, okay.
I wish I was that tall. No. It's all an illusion. No, I'm just 6 foot straight. I'm actually right at 5'11", and is where I'm at. But so.
That part I don't remember then. So maybe it was because you were on stage. I don't
I'm
know.
always
But
in my boots. I've got
yeah,
my
there you
2-inch
go.
heels on my
There you
boots.
go.
Right?
Nathan,
I just
I'm gonna flip the script just a little bit and ask
yeah.
you the opposite of what I asked you. What's the biggest reward you've had so far in the music industry?
Oh well, the friendships and the relationships is
Mhm.
the biggest reward that you can have. I think the people and the joy for me, it's uh, I sing and I perform because I love it and it feels
Mhm.
good.
It
And it's
shows.
the joy in it when you're singing and performing on stage. Um, that's where I get lost, and that's
Mhm.
where I kind of let the troubles of the world go away. Is when I'm on the stage and I'm singing, and I can focus on that, you
Yeah.
know, and the words of the song. But the relationships that I've made through the years, like talking about Joe Gershio, and people that I looked up to over the years. I've met several country artists that I admired, and idolized when I was a teenager. Um, and but those are great moments, great experiences. Uh, the memories, yeah. It's just when it all comes down to it, it's all the people that you've been
Mhm.
around.
Yeah.
All those years at the Opry's, growing up on the Opry circuit,
Mhm.
um, and those people that were there to support me all through those years. And I think about them all the time. I think about those experiences. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's those relationships that you make over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nathan, we've taken a lot of your time, and
Yeah. Oh no, it's
in
fine with me. I'm not doing anything else right now.
yeah, I'll tell you what, and you've got my number too. So if you just want, my story isn't as interesting as your story. So if you ever want to just flip the script and ask me questions, just give me a call.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds good. I like it.
Troy,
I
you got
enjoy
a pretty dang interesting story. I'm gonna say,
well, it depends on who the audience is.
it. Well, Mark, and I appreciate you as well, and getting to work with you and at General Jackson, and before that, even
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was that was
music
so.
in Nashville.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. That music, that first show that you were on, um, Nathan came out to the house. We auditioned about 30 singers for the show, and I had it filmed. I was filming it as well. And Nathan comes out. You were in full blown. It was like Orbison. I mean, but it was. I don't. Your look. You just had the look. It's like you showed up. You showed up like you were in front of 10,000 people. It was just, and then of course you sang. I mean, I wish you would just sing a little bit of a cappella, and
Yeah, let's
just
hear it, Dave.
do
Let's put
something,
Nathan on the
man.
spot. Yeah,
Yeah.
you all got to hear this.
Oh, I never go around mirrors. I can't stand to see me without you by my side. No, I never go around mirrors. 'Cause I got a heartache to hide.
All right.
There you go. A little
I
country
love it.
for you.
I
Let
love
yourself.
it. I
Folks, that
love
is
it.
world class.
It
No,
That
is.
thanks.
is world class, brother.
Nathan, not even a question about your life, but we've done a show where we deep dive into Brian Epstein, the manager for the Beatles,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of the next ones I want to do is either Tom Parker or Sam Phillips, and being
Oh.
the Sun record. Historian and history buff that you are, it'd be great if you came on with Mark and I if we do one of those and
Be cool.
Yeah, that'd
co-host.
be
And
fun.
yeah, what we do is we just dive into it, we talk about it, and do our research on it. And like I said, it'd be awesome to have you on and do that.
I'd be
we
happy. Yeah.
we call them fillers when when we don't when we don't have
That's
a
all right.
guest. Yeah, when we don't have a guest, we do a deep dive. And so but anyway, that would be great. Like I said, or as you said too, being a Sun record history buff, and I know that both of
Well,
us
I don't
read.
consider myself a buff, history buff necessarily, but I am very well aware of the history, though.
Yeah, so let's talk about that offline sometime and see what we want to do. It'd be great. It'd be great to
Yeah,
have you on to do that. So
that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
but we're an hour and 10 minutes into this, and like I said before we even came on, we look at the clock and an hour's gone by and we don't even know it. So
Yeah.
I guess you got any parting words of wisdom for us?
Oh, parting words of wisdom. Well, let's see. What's some parting words of wisdom? I don't have nothing clever.
Or you could sing
comes to
something
mind
else.
No,
Sing
that's
something else, man.
Oh,
Sing us
man.
to sleep, brother.
Sing you to sleep. Yeah. No, I'll say good night and have a good night sleeping underneath the blue moon tonight.
All right. That's a great way to end it. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nathan, why don't you just stay on? And to all, Dauber, it was great to see your comments out here. And everyone who stayed on with us, we love you all. Have a happy and safe new year. And we will catch you next week. Just look at our Facebook page for the day and the time, and we'll catch up with y'all. Thank you.